Welcome to my channel, where we learn life lessons. Today, we dive into the mind of one of history's greatest thinkers, Socrates. The ancient Greek philosopher who changed the world without writing a single word. His teachings have shaped Western thought for over 2,400 years. In this video, we explore everything about Socrates, his method, his philosophy, and how his timeless wisdom can transform your life today.
Socrates was born in Athens, Greece, around 470 BC. Unlike other philosophers, he never wrote books. Everything we know comes from his students, especially Plato. Socrates was famously ugly, with a snub nose and bulging eyes, yet his students were drawn to his brilliant mind. He spent his days in the Athenian marketplace, engaging people in conversation about justice, virtue, and the meaning of life. His mission was simple: to make people think.
Socrates lived during Athens' Golden Age, a time of immense cultural achievement. This was the era of the Parthenon, of great playwrights like Sophocles, and of democracy itself. Yet Socrates saw that while Athens celebrated beauty and power, it neglected wisdom. People cared more about money and status than truth and virtue. He believed Athens was like a noble horse grown sluggish, and he was the gadfly sent to sting it awake.
Everything changed when Socrates' friend Chaerephon visited the oracle at Delphi. He asked if anyone was wiser than Socrates. The oracle replied that no one was wiser. Socrates was baffled because he felt he knew nothing. So he set out to prove the oracle wrong by questioning politicians, poets, and craftsmen. He discovered they thought they knew everything, but actually knew nothing. Socrates realized he was wiser because he knew that he knew nothing. This became the foundation of Socratic philosophy. True wisdom begins with acknowledging our ignorance. Most people walk through life thinking they understand the world, but they have never really examined their beliefs. Socrates showed that admitting you do not know is not weakness. It is the first step toward real knowledge. This intellectual humility is more important than ever in a world filled with confident opinions and shallow thinking.
The Socratic Method, or Elenchus, is a technique of questioning that exposes contradictions in thinking. Socrates would ask simple questions, like, what is justice? As the person answered, he asked follow-up questions, revealing flaws in their reasoning. Step by step, the person realized their beliefs were inconsistent or based on unexamined assumptions. The goal was not to win an argument, but to arrive at truth through disciplined, honest thinking. Imagine someone says, "That politician is corrupt." Socrates would ask, "What do you mean by corrupt?" The person replies, "He takes bribes." Socrates asks, "Is everyone who takes money corrupt? What about a doctor paid to save a life?" The person hesitates. Through such questions, Socrates showed that our confident judgments are often based on vague ideas. The method forces us to think clearly and precisely about what we really mean.
Socrates was famous for his irony. He would approach an expert and say, "I am ignorant. Please teach me." The person would confidently explain, but Socrates would ask simple questions, revealing their lack of understanding. Socratic irony is pretending ignorance to expose the ignorance of others. It showed that those who claimed to know often understood nothing, while those who admitted ignorance were closer to true wisdom.
Socrates compared his method to midwifery. His mother was a midwife who helped women give birth. Socrates saw himself as a midwife of ideas. He did not teach knowledge directly. Instead, he helped people give birth to their own understanding by asking the right questions. A midwife does not create the baby, but helps it emerge. Similarly, Socrates helped others discover truth for themselves rather than forcing his own ideas on them.
Socrates believed knowledge and virtue are the same. If a person truly knows what is good, they will naturally do good. No one chooses evil deliberately. Wrongdoing is simply ignorance. This is called ethical intellectualism. All evil comes from a lack of understanding. If we want to be better people, we must first seek knowledge. Understanding right from wrong is the foundation of a good and ethical life.
The most famous words of Socrates: "The unexamined life is not worth living." He said this during his trial. For Socrates, a life without questioning, reflection, and self-examination is not truly human. We go through days on autopilot, believing what we are told, never asking why. The examined life requires courage. It means questioning your beliefs, your society, and your assumptions. This is the only path to genuine wisdom and freedom.
Socrates believed the soul is the most important part of a human being. The soul is your inner self, your character, your moral core. He taught that we should care for our souls above all else, more than money, reputation, or pleasure. A person with a healthy soul is virtuous and wise. A person with a corrupted soul is miserable, no matter how wealthy or powerful. This idea profoundly influenced all later philosophy and religion.
For Socrates, virtue is the only true good, and vice the only true evil. Everything else, wealth, health, fame, even death, is indifferent. These can be used for good or evil depending on a person's character. A good person can turn poverty into an opportunity for virtue. A bad person corrupts even great wealth. Your character is your destiny. The most important project of your life is becoming a good person through knowledge and discipline.
In Plato's dialogue Laches, Socrates explores courage. General Laches says courage is standing firm in battle. Socrates asks, what about courage in facing illness, poverty, or public opinion? General Nicias says courage is knowing what to fear. Socrates probes deeper, showing true courage is not just physical bravery, but wisdom about what truly matters. Courage, he concludes, is a kind of knowledge of good and evil.
Socrates questioned what justice truly means. In Plato's Republic, he argues justice is not just following laws or giving each person their due. True justice is harmony of the soul. A just person has all parts of the soul working in balance, reason ruling over desire and spirit. Similarly, a just society has each person playing their proper role. Justice is not about external rules, but internal order and balance within yourself.
In the dialogue Euthyphro, Socrates questions a man who claims to know what piety is. Euthyphro says piety is what the gods love. Socrates asks, do the gods love something because it is good, or is it good because the gods love it? This is the Euthyphro dilemma, which has challenged philosophers for over 2,000 years. The dialogue ends without a clear answer, proving that even simple concepts become complex under examination.
Socrates had profound insights about friendship. True friendship is based on virtue, not utility or pleasure. A friend useful today may not be useful tomorrow, but a friend who shares your commitment to goodness is always valuable. Socrates spoke of love as desire for the good and beautiful. Love is not just physical attraction, but a longing for wisdom and excellence. The highest form of love is the love of wisdom, which is philosophy itself.
When facing death, Socrates showed remarkable calm. Death is either a dreamless sleep or a journey to another place. If dreamless sleep, it is peaceful rest. If a journey, he would meet great heroes of the past. Either way, death is nothing to fear. The only thing to fear is living a bad life. A good person cannot be harmed in life or in death. This courageous attitude has inspired people for over 2,000 years. In 399 BC, Socrates was put on trial. He was charged with impiety and corrupting the youth, but the real reasons were political. He had criticized powerful figures, and his students were involved in overthrowing the democracy. The trial was unfair, but Socrates refused to compromise his principles. He used the trial as a final lesson about integrity. He would rather die than stop philosophizing and seeking truth.
Socrates' defense speech, recorded in Plato's Apology, is one of history's greatest speeches. He did not beg for mercy. He told the jury, "I will not change my conduct, not even if I have to die 1,000 deaths." He compared himself to a gadfly sent by God to wake up Athens. The jury, insulted by his honesty, convicted him. Socrates showed that integrity matters more than winning, even when your life is at stake.
After conviction, Socrates could have proposed exile or a fine. Instead, he suggested Athens should reward him. The jury voted for death. Socrates accepted calmly. His friends arranged his escape, but he refused. He believed obeying the laws, even unjust ones, was part of being virtuous. A true philosopher does not fear death. His integrity never wavered. He taught his final lesson: live according to your principles, no matter the cost.
Socrates died by drinking hemlock. Plato describes his final moments in the Phaedo. His friends wept, but Socrates remained calm. He walked until his legs grew heavy, then lay down. His last words, "Crito, we owe a rooster to Asclepius. Do not forget to pay it." Even in his final moment, he thought of others. He died with dignity and principle. This is how a philosopher...
Plato was Socrates' most famous student. After Socrates' death, Plato founded the Academy in Athens, the first university in the Western world. Plato's dialogues feature Socrates as the main character, preserving his wisdom forever. Plato developed his own philosophy, including the theory of forms, but always credited Socrates as his inspiration. Without Plato, the name Socrates might have been lost to history.
The Socratic dialogues are Plato's writings featuring Socrates in conversation. Early dialogues, like Euthyphro, Apology, Crito, and Phaedo, closely reflect Socrates' actual teachings. Later dialogues, like Republic and Symposium, use Socrates to explore Plato's own ideas. The dialogues are not just philosophy, but literary masterpieces, combining drama, humor, and profound insight. Reading them is the closest we can get to speaking with Socrates himself.
Plato was not the only student who wrote about Socrates. The historian Xenophon also recorded Socrates' conversations. Xenophon's Socrates is more practical, focusing on everyday advice, managing a household, leading people, being a good friend. While scholars debate which account is more accurate, both show a man of extraordinary wisdom. Xenophon gives us a valuable additional perspective on the historical Socrates beyond Plato's version.
Aristotle studied at Plato's Academy and was deeply influenced by Socrates, even though he never met him. Aristotle credited Socrates with two major contributions: inductive reasoning and universal definition. Socrates' method of asking, "What is it?" and seeking essential definitions laid the groundwork for Western logic and science. The line from Socrates to Plato to Aristotle forms the intellectual backbone of all Western civilization.
Socrates' influence created several schools of philosophy. The Cynics, led by Diogenes, embraced his disregard for material wealth. The Cyrenaics focused on immediate experience. The Megarian school developed his logical methods. Most importantly, the Stoics built their entire philosophy on Socratic principles. Virtue is the only good, reason rules over emotion, and a wise person is unaffected by external events. all trace their roots to Socrates.
The connection between Socrates and Stoicism is especially powerful. Stoics like Epictetus, Seneca, and Marcus Aurelius continued Socrates' mission. They believed philosophy is not abstract theory, but a practical way of living. Epictetus, a former slave who became a great philosopher, constantly referenced Socrates as his model. Marcus Aurelius wrote meditations echoing Socratic themes. Stoic emphasis on virtue, self-control, and inner freedom all come from Socrates.
Today, the Socratic method is used in law schools worldwide. Professors question students intensely, forcing them to think on their feet. Medical schools use Socratic questioning to develop diagnostic skills. Teachers at all levels find that asking the right questions is more powerful than giving answers. The method teaches critical thinking, not memorization. Socrates' educational approach is as revolutionary today as it was 2,400 years ago.
In our age of information overload, Socratic questioning is more valuable than ever. We are bombarded with opinions, advertisements, and propaganda. Socrates taught us to ask, what is the evidence? What assumptions are being made? Are there alternative explanations? By questioning everything, we separate truth from manipulation. Critical thinking is not being negative, it is being intellectually rigorous. Socrates' questioning mind is our best defense against deception.
Lawyers use Socratic questioning to cross-examine witnesses and test evidence. Doctors use it to diagnose by systematically ruling out possibilities. Therapists use it to help patients examine their thoughts and beliefs. In every field requiring clear thinking, the Socratic method appears. The pattern is the same. Ask questions, challenge assumptions, seek clarity, reject easy answers. This method works because it mirrors how the human mind truly learns and discovers truth.
Great leaders use Socratic questioning for better decisions. Instead of telling teams what to do, they ask, what are we missing? What if we tried the opposite? How do we know our data is correct? This Socratic leadership creates a culture of critical thinking and improvement. It builds trust because people feel heard. Socrates taught the ultimate leadership lesson. The best leader is not the one with all the answers, but the one who asks the best questions.
Socrates appears throughout popular culture. He's referenced in films from Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure to The Matrix. His trial and death have inspired countless books, plays, and paintings. The phrase, "I know that I know nothing," is widely quoted. Socrates even influences artificial intelligence, as the Socratic method is used in chatbot design. His statue is recognized worldwide as a symbol of wisdom itself.
Many misunderstand Socrates. Some think he was a pessimist who doubted everything, but he was deeply hopeful about human potential. Others think he was killed for atheism, but he believed in God, just not the Greek myths. Some believe he was a professional teacher, but he never accepted money. He called himself a fellow seeker of truth. Understanding the real Socrates is more powerful than believing the myths surrounding him.
If you want to use the Socratic method in your own life, I recommend The Socratic Way of Questioning by ThinkNetic, published by Penguin. This book teaches step-by-step how to use Socrates' method to discover truth and argue wisely. It covers questioning techniques, critical thinking strategies, and practical exercises. Find it on Amazon for just 206 rupees. Link in the description. Reading this book is one of the best investments in your thinking skills.
What can Socrates teach us about modern life? First, question everything, especially your own beliefs. Second, admit when you do not know something. That is the beginning of wisdom. Third, focus on your character, not your reputation. Fourth, do not fear failure or death. Fear only living without integrity. Fifth, seek truth, not comfort. These lessons are simple to state, but difficult to practice.
Socrates spent his entire life trying to live by them. If you apply even one of Socrates' lessons, your life will be richer. Start by examining one belief you have never questioned. Ask yourself, why do I believe this? Is it really true? What would change if I were wrong? Socrates also recommended daily reflection. Spend 10 minutes each evening reviewing your choices and thinking. Write down your thoughts. Question yourself as honestly as you question others. This daily practice transforms how you think and live.
Here is how to practice Socratic questioning today. When you hear a claim, ask, what do you mean by that? When someone states an opinion, ask, how do you know that's true? When facing a decision, ask, what are my assumptions? Am I considering all perspectives? Challenge yourself to find evidence for your beliefs. Look for counterexamples. Consider the opposite. This habit of disciplined questioning will make you a clearer, sharper, and wiser thinker.
Socrates died 2,400 years ago, but his legacy is everywhere. Every time a teacher asks a probing question, Socrates is present. Every time a scientist challenges a hypothesis, Socrates is there. Every time someone stands up for truth against power, Socrates lives on. He showed that philosophy is not an academic subject, but a way of life. His courage, humility, and relentless pursuit of truth continue to inspire millions around the world.
Let us summarize the key teachings. 1. True wisdom begins with admitting ignorance. 2. The unexamined life is not worth living. 3. Virtue is the only true good. 4. No one does evil knowingly, wrongdoing comes from ignorance. 5. Your character is the most important thing you possess. 6. Death is nothing to fear. 7. True knowledge comes through questioning, not through being told. These are the pillars of Socratic philosophy. Continuing the summary. 8. Justice is harmony of the soul. 9. Courage is knowledge of what truly matters. 10. Friendship must be based on virtue. 11. Love is the desire for wisdom and excellence. 12. A good person cannot be harmed. 13. Philosophy is not a theory but a way of life. These 13 principles are practical tools for living better today. Socrates gave us not a system of beliefs but a method for thinking. Socrates influenced early Christian thought in surprising ways. Early Christian writers like Justin Martyr called Socrates a Christian before Christ because he lived by truth and was persecuted for it. Socratic ideas about the soul, virtue, and immortality resonated with Christian theology. The emphasis on examining your conscience and caring for your inner self echoes Socratic teaching. Socrates bridged the pagan and Christian worlds in profound and lasting ways. Scholars face what is called the Socratic problem. Since Socrates never wrote anything, how do we know what he really believed? Plato, Xenophon, and Aristophanes all portrayed him differently. Plato's Socrates is a profound philosopher. Xenophon's is more practical. Aristophanes mocked him as a silly sophist. The real Socrates may be forever unknown, but the power of his ideas transcends the debate. The Socratic spirit lives on regardless. Socrates had radical views on wealth. He often walked barefoot and owned almost nothing. He said, "The fewer my needs, the closer I am to the gods." He believed wealth corrupts character because it creates false needs and distractions. Poverty, on the other hand, can be a teacher. When you have less, you appreciate what truly matters. Socrates was not glorifying suffering but reminding us that happiness comes from within, not from possessions. Socrates was critical of democracy in its Athenian form. He saw that elections could be won by flattery rather than wisdom. He compared democracy to a ship where everyone wants to be captain regardless of their navigation skills. He believed the best rulers are those who understand what is good, not those who seek popularity. His critique remains relevant today as we question the role of expertise in public life. The simplest and most powerful Socratic tool is the question why. Children ask why constantly, but adults stop. Socrates never stopped. Why do we do things this way? Why do we believe this? Why is this considered good? By asking why, we move from surface-level understanding to deep insight. The person who asks why controls the conversation. The person who asks why of themselves controls their own life. Never stop asking why. Socrates was a great questioner because he was a great listener. He did not interrogate people, he genuinely listened to their answers. Most people listen only to reply, not to understand. Socrates listened to understand. He paid attention to what people said and what they did not say. The art of Socratic questioning begins with the art of listening. When you truly listen, you discover what others really believe and why they believe it. Know thyself was inscribed at the Temple of Delphi, and Socrates made it his life's mission. Self-knowledge is the foundation of all wisdom. You cannot understand the world until you understand yourself. Socrates spent his life examining his own beliefs, motives, and assumptions. He knew that the greatest obstacle to truth is not ignorance but the illusion of knowledge. The journey to wisdom begins with the journey inward. Socrates revolutionized education. Before him, teachers simply lectured and students memorized. Socrates showed that true learning happens through dialogue and discovery. The teacher is not a fountain of knowledge but a guide who helps students think for themselves. This approach, called student-centered learning, is now the gold standard in modern education. Every teacher who asks a question instead of giving an answer is following Socrates. Let us explore some famous Socrates quotes. The unexamined life is not worth living means we must reflect on our choices. I know that I know nothing means true wisdom is knowing your limits. To know is to know that you know nothing, that is the meaning of true knowledge. Strong minds discuss ideas, average minds discuss events, weak minds discuss people. Be kind, for everyone you meet is fighting a hard battle. Each quote contains a lifetime of wisdom. Socrates is more than a philosopher, he is a role model for how to live. He showed us that it is possible to stand by your principles even when the whole world is against you. He demonstrated that true strength is not physical power but moral courage. He proved that a single person with conviction can change the course of history. In a world that rewards conformity, Socrates remains the ultimate example of independent thinking. Before Socrates, philosophy was mostly about understanding the natural world. Pre-Socratic philosophers asked, "What is the universe made of?" Socrates shifted the focus to human questions: how should we live? What is justice? What is the good life? This shift, called the Socratic turn, changed philosophy forever. After Socrates, philosophy became primarily about ethics, meaning, and the human condition. We are all his heirs. Here is how to apply Socratic wisdom daily. When you feel angry, ask, why am I really angry? When you face a difficult decision, ask, what would a wise person do? When you disagree with someone, ask, what can I learn from their perspective? Socrates taught that every situation is an opportunity for growth. By approaching life with curiosity and humility, we transform ordinary moments into lessons in wisdom. Thank you for watching my channel, where we learn life lessons. If this video added value to your life, please like, share, and subscribe. Help others discover the transformative power of Socratic thinking. Also check out the Socratic Way of Questioning by ThinkNetic on Amazon, link in the description, for just 206 rupees. It is the perfect next step on your journey toward wisdom.